Hi, my name is Caleb Chung, and today I will be presenting on expanding access to mental health facilities in schools. So you see, the issue is that a lot of students find themselves lacking in mental health resources due to a variety of factors, such as like financial barriers and just social stigma. And often there are just no safe spaces to seek these mental spaces. So what we can do is um, basically, mental facilities can include wellness centers, access to psychologists, and even just like a safe space for mental wellness. And the sad thing is that according to the National Center for Education Statistics, only 48% of schools believe they can effectively provide mental health resources, despite the fact that 58% recorded an increase in demand for mental health resources. And I believe this can be very harmful for the mental well-being of students and translate onto adulthood. And public schools are basically legally required for all students under the age of 18. So I believe they deserve proper facilities where they can meet their mental health needs. And according to the statistic right here, as we can see to the right, the biggest problem is the lack of funding in public schools. Next slide, please. So an upstream solution would be to get more funding, but that's obviously going to be quite difficult. So um, how like we can build partnerships and collaborate with health departments and clinics basically. And we can do this by the ICS, which is the integrated care system. And these are basically partnerships which can bring together organizations uh, to create coordinated care for each individual school district. Next slide, please. And basically, integrated care systems can help the local populations in a variety of ways. And most of it stems from the fact that these systems take all place within the local level. They can improve the overall quality of the systems given, and the system is specific to the region, therefore it's easier to adapt and will suit the people. And more people will be able to access these services in an area that is familiar to the population. There will be a higher satisfaction rate, a more personal understanding within like face-to-face interactions. The goal is to provide these services to high school students first, but eventually open to the entire district of wherever it may take place. And an example is the Veterans Health Administration. And here we can see that according to va.gov, they have 170 medical centers prioritizing towards health improvements. And yeah, that is it for my presentation.
Hi everyone, my name is Nana Alma Dwumfuoh, and the topic I'm going to be talking about today is poor mental health in public high school educators. Next slide, please. So the issue I'm going to be addressing today is how public high school educators are facing poor mental health in the US. And as you can see on the chart on the right, you see that around 31% have experienced a mental health issue in the past education field, and that even 74% experience having no support system. And around 1/3 of teachers are considering of quitting their job. And some of the root causes of these poor mental health issues that public high school educators are facing today is depression, burnout, anxiety, and stress. And however, it's important to note that although these are the most common root causes, there's still a vast majority of root causes that are affecting teachers today that are not listed. Next slide, please. So here are some of the statistics of the well-being of teachers in January 2022. According to the 74 million organization, we see that around 73% of teachers have frequent job-related stress, and that even 46% are able to bounce back up on their feet. But however, a question we want to ask ourselves is what happens to teachers that can't handle the stress and that they don't feel that much supported? So with that being said, let's take a look at some of the real life examples and experiences of outcomes of teachers with no support system. So when teachers have no support system, this can lead to heartbreaking experiences and outcomes, such as suicide. And here are the most three common recent suicides that occurred this year. We have Dr. Scott Petrie, and we have Brent Schemer and Samuel Collinday. And all three of these teachers had poor mental health issues that they didn't feel that much supported. So this just goes to show how heartbreaking this experience is when they have no support system. Next slide, please. So my solution that I propose today is that through state funding and federal funding, as well as local government contribution, that schools implement mental health support classrooms that are accessible during and the beginning of the school, and as well as lunch and during their break systems. So as you can see, I have an example over here. This kind of looks like a whole person care classroom, but this can also be a teacher support classroom with a support psychologist. And even though that most psychologists are meant for students provided, I believe that having a teacher support psychologist is just as important because teachers are as human as the younger generations are. So the classrooms would provide a safe space for teachers to share their feelings and connect with colleagues. Next slide, please. So now we're going to be talking about the potential outcomes and impact of the solution. So with this being said, support classrooms being implemented throughout the regular school day and teacher breaks would help teachers feel comfortable expressing their emotions to their colleagues and a confidential support psychologist. And this will also reduce suicide rates and mental health rates, and it will also become a lasting resource for future generations and future teachers in the school. Next slide, please. And lastly, here is the importance of having these classrooms. These classrooms also serve as a rest and recharge stations for teachers. That way they have the energy to continue teaching throughout the day. And when teachers feel confident, this also lets students also have the same confidence as well and the same characteristics. And this also encourages students to have a growth mindset, which is a major benefit for teachers as well. So in conclusion, having a dedicated teacher support classroom isn't just a helpful addition, but it's also a necessary step forward in promoting a healthier environment for the education field. And these spaces allow educators to rest and recharge. And here's my sources. And next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Hello, my name is Hector Miranda, and I will be presenting on undocumented use and substance use. Next slide, please. So some keywords and terms that are required for this presentation is the term dreamer, which is made to refer to undocumented children brought to the United States before age 18, and deferred action for childhood arrivals, also known as DACA, which is a program that may be given to some dreamers. Next slide, please. So as established before, the term for undocumented youth are dreamers, and it is an issue that the nation is becoming more aware of, which is the amount of undocumented youth in the country, which capacitate around 1/5 of the total undocumented population. These people have adapted to American culture, but yes, possess no permanent documentation. As insignificant as this may seem, studies point to profound mental effects, which may lead to substance use among this population. Next, please. Now, the health issue is the rising depression in dreamers. In a study done in 2020 by Dr. Lee G. Thomas, it was uncovered that the depression rates for the dreamer population are around that of double of the US standard. As we can see here in the chart, which was also created by Dr. Lee G. Thomas, we can see that in terms of anxiety and depression, dreamers, 67% of dreamers do suffer from both, while 29% have attempted some form of suicide in the past. Additionally, in a study done by the National Institute of Mental Health, there seems to be a correlation between depression and substance use, with in many cases the substance use leading to addiction. Because of their undocumented status, many of these young dreamers do not have the adequate resources to combat and prevent this depression and substance use. Next slide, please. So what does it mean to be undocumented? Well, for starters, undocumented people don't have access to federal benefits like health insurance, social security, financial aid, and student loans. This is a problem because many dreamers need these benefits in order to pursue a higher education here in the United States. On top of that, if a dreamer doesn't have a legal status like DACA or temporary protected status, they are ineligible to work. And as we can see here in this chart, over 3/4 of all dreamers do not have a work authorization. So the dreamers need to make money so they can pay off their college, but they can't work, which creates even more of a mental strain on them as well. Additionally, dreamers don't have access to travel authorization and are deportable from the country at any time. Next, please. So my solution would be to establish something known as student community justice centers, which is inspired by the Family Justice Center system, which is a nationwide system, with 4 of these centers being here in Contra Costa. In these centers, a program known as Nuevos Comienzos is provided, in which that it helps the undocumented community with substance use and eventual mental recovery. My solution is inspired by this program. These justice centers would be implemented in universities, colleges, and high schools across the county. And although most colleges and universities already offer services to help undocumented immigrants, they don't address the root of the problem, which is feeling alone. According to the Nuevos Comienzos team, dreamer depression rates are so high because they feel alone and isolated. They feel like they've adapted to American customs, but yet barely, sorry, but yet bear the feeling that they don't belong. Most have spent their entire lives in the United States, building relationships and a meaningful connection to a place they can be removed and deported. These centers would provide financial aid service centers, such as helping eligible dreamers apply for the California Dream Act. They would also provide community engagement activities, free immigration attorney consultations, and they would also house bilingual detox centers. In Contra Costa, there are only 2 detox centers, with only one of these detox centers offering monolingual services, aka Spanish services as well. Finally, these centers would have internships that reward stipends as a form for those dreamers who may not hold legal status to make a form of income so they can be sustained off that as well. Now, there are some potential barriers, with the most prominent one being the mistrust in the program/system. Many people don't like disclosing their legal immigration status, and because of this, they may not want to show up to a center like this as well. Additionally, there could be funding issues, although this could be resolved with state and donations. State funding, as we can see, being used by California to the California Dream Act, which provides financial aid to undocumented dreamers. And finally, we have the rise in racism, which could lead to the unwillingness to help this group of people. In other words, people would be less likely to take sympathy for this group of people simply because of the rise of racism across the nation. Next slide, please. So the intended effects of this program would be to obviously lower substance use rates among dreamers, along with depression and anxiety rates. And additionally, another goal of this program would be for the dreamers to give back to their community. Like, for example, the Nuevos Comienzos alumni program, in which Nuevos Comienzos graduates come back to the program to help new Nuevos Comienzos participants with their substance use problems. Additionally, we want to see high approval rates for immigration programs because substance use does not look good on an immigration record, with the goal being for eventually all dreamers to become permanent residents of the United States. And finally, to bring awareness to this issue of undocumented dreamers, that they live their entire life here, and yet they feel like they don't belong and possess no legal status here. Next slide, please. So these are my sources with links, my research articles, including the one by Dr. Lee G. Thomas and the National Institute of Health. Next, please. Thank you. Any questions?
Hello everyone, my name is Daisza Cuadra and this is my presentation, Mind Matters. The health topic I'll be covering today is depression and anxiety within the Latino youth. Next slide, please. So starting with the graph that is on the left, a study was conducted in 2022 by the ACOMA project that showed that Latino was the highest racial group to suffer from mild to severe anxiety at 23%. And then moving on to 2021, the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, they basically researched about the youth experiencing a major depressive disorder within the past year. The highest group was multiracial. However, Latino again was the second highest with 23%. And within that same percentage, they have noted that 75% of Latinos decided that they weren't able to seek help for their mental health or did not have any resources. And then additionally, to the 8% of Latino parents who have reported that their child has received some type of mental health resources compared to the 14% of white children. Next slide, please. So what are the high causes of this? Well, there's really multiple answers to answer this question. However, there are 2 major factors, which is the migration experience as well as the Latino culture. Whether they are an immigrant themselves, that they immigrated here from a young age, or whether they come from a family of immigrants, there is the fear of separation between family members, experiencing racism or discrimination, and often the youth having to take adult responsibilities at an early age, in addition to having to balance between 2 cultures. And moving on to the cultural stigma that also plays a big role is that in mental health, often that topic is dismissed due to the fact, or ignored due to the fact that elder generations view it as a sign of weakness or believe the stigma that it is not real. Next slide, please. So my solution to this is the app that I created called Mind Matters. Mind Matters is a multilingual mental health app that has different features to support emotional well-being. First, what we have is the welcome screen that first introduces the app. Next, we have a feed similar to the TikTok for You page that essentially it is filled with videos as well as articles that are from either therapists, doctors, or mental health content creators that give tips and also education on mental health. Next, I also have the feature where they are able to connect with resources around them, whether they wanted to do it online or in person, it is up to them. The services that are offered are such as mental health programs, having clinics, therapy, and also mental health hotlines. Next, I have a game session that I created 3 unique games that essentially the goal for all of these 3 games is that the user can build emotional intelligence as well as know how to handle tough life situations. And then lastly, what I have over here is the profile and journal, where essentially the users can decorate and document their own feelings in their journal while they're also able to track their own mental health as well as being able to reflect on their mental health journey. Next slide, please. So the effect of my solution is that it builds emotional education and intelligence through the interactive contents that I have within the app. It is supposed to be a safe and non-judgmental environment for everyone, that the users feel that their struggles are heard, seen, and valid, and that they are sure that they are not only going through this journey alone, that there's also many others struggling along with them, as well as for it being bilingual and having multiple languages, so not just only English, that it creates more of an accessible and an inclusive nationwide impact that is able to reach more diverse communities. And lastly, it is personalized through the user's interactions within the app. And also it helps them being able to reflect on their own growth and see how their mental health has progressed throughout the time of having the app. Next slide, please. These are my works cited. And next slide, please. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening. Does anyone have any questions?
Hello, my name's Citlalli Curiel, and my title for my presentation is Breaking the Cycle with Nature, and I'll be addressing depression among youth in the juvenile justice system in Contra Costa. Next slide, please. So this is a little overview. So depression in youth, so the juvenile isolation and trauma raise depression rates. The second one would be cortisol impact. Chronic stress boosts cortisol, harming youth of color most. And limited park access. Cities with majority of people of color lack parks of transportation to get there. Next slide, please. Issue and data. So the issue is that the youth are exposed to harmful conditions that are different types of abuse, violence, neglect, etc., that cause trauma, which completely alter the brain chemistry for the youth. And going into jail after these harmful environments can be very drastic of a change. And we can see in the graph how the percentage, which is the first graph, how the percentage of the juvenile felony arrest by gender is actually pretty drastic. You can see the female is 17.4, while the male is 82.6. And also, when you look at the second graph, actually, it shows that it's basically the same thing, the juvenile felony arrest rate, but it's by race and ethnicity, which now comes into play where it shows African American as the blue line, Hispanic and Latino as the orange line, and white as the green line. And we kind of see right there that African American population is actually the highest felony arrest rate. And when talking to my mentors, they actually told me that in the Martinez detention center, it's actually the highest population of, it's like the majority of people are the African Americans that actually are in the detention center, which is seen as very high. Next slide, please. So Who does this impact unfairly? A lot of people who go into jail with pre-existing trauma have very high levels of cortisol, and it has them in a fight or flight response that definitely affects them psychologically. Some studies have shown that cortisol levels can go down by just being around nature. For example, in the first one, if you can kind of pinch and if you can't see it, but there's walking in an urban area compared to a forest area. And when you're walking into it, you can see how in the urban area, the before is at 10.28, while after it's only reduced to a 10.01. And then if you walk into the forest area, it starts with a 9.70 and it goes down to an 8.37. And as you look at the other numbers of the before and afters for both urban and forest, you can really see that although it's not drastic, there's definitely like a lot more going down in the forest area than in the urban area. And I mean, if you were to do something more consistently, and like be in nature more consistently, I think you would be able to get lower cortisol levels and helping you not stress and worry so much, which is why you're in that fight or flight response all the time. The second graph kind of shows more about how like we live in these areas, especially in Contra Costa, where we have park access, but we just don't have the transportation to get there. And a lot of the people of color, especially in like Pittsburgh, Antioch, Oakley, have parks, but they just cannot get there. And when we focus more on like, let's say Pittsburgh, because I'm a native in Pittsburgh, and there's like the big park of Black Diamond, but there's no buses to get there. And if the studies show that being in like these nature areas is what helping us, it is what it's helping us, but we can't get to those places because our cities don't have these resources, that can really affect our mental health and the way that we're always in fight or flight, or just the cortisol levels being super high. Next slide, please. So basically my solution using bio and greenery. So my solution is to make an outside garden area where it will be kept up by the youth who are in the justice system doing their time. In this garden, it will be full of trees and the fresh air created by them, as well as flowers planted and kept up by the youth that they can later enjoy and sit around, as well as even do therapy sessions to try and relax or have them in a better mental state. Because as I said, like being in these type of green areas can just really help them a lot. Next slide, please. Why I think my solution will be effective. I believe my solution will be effective because during a tour led by my mentors at the John A. Davis Juvenile Hall, I was shown the bee project that certain units were participating in. This project involved youth caring for bees and harvesting honey throughout the year. It was not only beautiful to see dozens of jars of honey, but it was also amazing to get told how much more relaxed and engaged the participants seemed. Despite being in such an isolating environment, they were having fun and trying something new. This experience was clear proof to me that my solution is both practical and possible to implement. Next slide, please. These are my cited sources, and on the next slide, please. Thank you. Questions are welcome.
Hi, my name is Isabela Flores, and my presentation is going to be about language equity starting early, redesigning bilingual education for true access and identity. The issues I'm going to be addressing is second-generation children being at risk of losing their home language that could lead to identity loss and mental health issues. It will also be focusing on low-income students that have less access to quality programs, which leaves them at a disadvantage. Many schools already require a foreign language, yet it's rarely effective. The main goal is to make a system that is built for fluency and not just a class that people are just wanting to pass. So this is the data supporting. So on the left, we can see that 54% of people who are bilingual have said that it is important for their current jobs, and 35% have said that they have went out of their way to learn a new language as it has been helpful for their current job. On the right, we can see that critical period to learn a language is between ages 3 to 7, compared to when we're actually in high school, which is, it starts decreasing, which is when it's 11 through 15. So the unfair outcome is that second-generation immigrants and low-income students are required to learn a language far too late. The system already falsely promises bilingualism, impacting students who don't have access to any immersion programs or at-home support. This can create a false sense of language equity while deepening educational and emotional inequality. Now, who does this impact specifically? Only 25% of people who are in the K through 12 system are enrolled in foreign language classes only because it is for graduation requirements, not because they want to. And dual immersion programs are less available in low income schools only because there isn't as much funding compared to high income schools. So my upstream solution is going to be focusing on implementing comprehensive bilingual programs starting in elementary school. This program would be accessible in public schools serving second generation immigrants and low income students, along with blending with culture as dual language models students' heritage and teaches languages equitably. Lastly, we will train more bilingual teachers by providing early access for all, so all students have a great chance at success. So we're going to go into how early start is better than just high school only. So early start will focus on natural fluency, building identity, boosting mental health, setting up for bilingualism, and also obtaining the biliteracy seal. All while the younger children are already neurologically better prepared to learn languages, that which will promote equity. Compared to high school only, it's rush memorization, feeling forced and authentic, rarely achieves fluency, can cause stress and disconnection as they don't have like home support, and often leads to forgetting the language. As mentioned previously, the critical window for learning a language is between ages 3 to 10. So now we're going to go into the benefits. So the personal benefits is improving cognitive development and memory, attention, and problem solving, along with reinforcing a strong sense of identity, belonging, and increasing self-worth and self-confidence in the second generation students and low-income students. It would also create a multilingual and competitive workforce, which you can see in medicines, law force, and etc. It would also help reduce inequality by giving early access to language and not just high income communities to have everyone set up for success. It would support public health and safety as people will be more open-minded with the different perspectives and cultures, along with enhancing national security and diplomacy. Lastly, it will promote cross-cultural empathy, respect, and global awareness by resisting white supremacist narratives, by valuing different diverse languages and cultures, along with strengthening social connections. These are my cited sources. They're all like, if you tap the thing, it's like linked to a link. And the next one is just thank you and questions.
Hi everyone, my name is Alicia Revuelta, and my presentation is about the prevalence of childhood obesity in low-income families. So my issue is that in low-income families, childhood obesity rates are significantly higher compared to higher income groups. And this could be due to a lot of factors, including limited access to healthy food or safe recreation areas, or even healthcare resources in general. And this is a problem because obesity in childhood can increase the risk of chronic diseases in the future. And it could also greatly affect mental health, self esteem, and academic performance in children. So, in the graph, you could see that 10% of children carry excess body fat, while 2.5 of them are classified as obese. And this is important because it tells us that even though like children may not be classified as obese in general, overweight is still a problem that should be talked about as well. And also, children from financially disadvantaged families were 3 times more likely to be impacted by obesity or overweight, food insecurity, and food insufficiency. So, this is basically saying that children who come from marginalized communities and lower income groups are more prone to being at risk of developing obesity or being overweight in general. So my upstream solution would be to implement community-based nutrition and physical activity programs. These would be specifically tailored to lower income families and communities. This could consist of free access to healthy and nutritious food, either through food banks or mobile pantries. This could be seen by partnering with local food banks or setting up mobile markets in marginalized neighborhoods. And this could be very beneficial, especially considering how not a lot of lower income families have the opportunity to afford healthy food in a sense. So giving them this option would be very helpful for them. And then another idea would be to organize opportunities for safe physical activity, such as sports, clubs, etc. This could be seen as providing free and safe recreational sport events for kids, or just improve like local parks and walking paths so that families and children can have the opportunity to engage in safe physical activity. Or we could work with schools to offer after school physical activity programs. Um, and this is something that's important because, especially in lower income communities, um, they don't have the opportunity to engage in physical activity as much as higher income groups because it could be seen more as dangerous or they could be putting their health at risk. So by providing these resources and allowing for these improvements, it could be extremely beneficial not only for the children but for the families in general. So why would this be effective? So free access to healthy food will be effective because it could increase the access to fresh fruits such as and veggies and whole foods, and these are all essential for a nutritious lifestyle. But not only that, it could also impact significantly the development of children, especially since they are going through a very crucial age that what they are consuming plays a huge role in their development and their growth. And organized physical activity opportunities will allow children and families to engage in daily activities, like I mentioned earlier. But not only that, it could also help build healthy habits and allow them to grow up um, and being able to um, have the opportunity to keep on engaging in those healthy activities. And um, yeah, and all children deserve a fair chance at lifelong health. And these are my sources. Thank you.
Okay. I am Mykayla Jeffers, and I wanted to share this hard truth that I've learned growing up. I wasn't wrong for crying, I was wrong for yelling. As a child, I spoke in the only language the world around me seemed to understand. Hi, I'm a HCP 2025 summer intern presenting Open Your Toolbox, addressing emotional regulation. Next, please. You may be wondering, what is emotional regulation? Per Cornell and the American Psychological Association, emotional regulation is a person's ability to effectively manage and respond to an emotional experience, as well as the ability of an individual to modulate an emotion or set of emotions. Essentially, this is recognizing how you feel, understanding why you feel that way, and choosing how to respond. Next, please. I wanted to specifically do my project on children in underserved communities. So, this is a study on the right that looked at how growing up in poverty affects children's ability to correctly identify emotions. This showed that children who chronically lived in poverty required emotional intensity set at 60% in order to reach levels of accuracy, compared to 30% intensity among children who were never exposed to poverty. This connects to an emotional regulation because if a child struggles to identify emotions, needing higher intensity facial expressions, they may misinterpret social cues, leading to inappropriate emotional reactions, or even as simple as difficulty calming down in stressful situations. In these underserved communities, there's limited resources and support systems. This contributes to programs in schools often lacking funding for social emotional learning. In these communities, we have already seen like higher exposure to chronic stress and trauma. Adverse experiences flood the brain with cortisol, which damages key areas for self-control, and essentially it makes emotional regulation harder for children and people in general. Next, please. So my upstream solution is a YouTube channel called Open Your Toolbox. It's free, accessible, and expert-led. Something that is included is that there's an inclusive design. The design has visual, auditory, and interactive lessons for all types of learners. Also, what's nice is that it teaches co-regulation between caregivers and child, so that the child isn't left trying to figure out how to self-regulate by themselves, but to have that extra support. This YouTube channel brings professional emotional regulation guidance directly to underserved communities through workshops with showings of statistics, scenarios, and interactions. Also, the different lessons are tailored to different age groups. So there's different curriculums for different age groups. Lastly, there's something for completion, which is an entry into raffle, invitation to a virtual celebration party, and a certificate. Thank you. Lastly, this is my cited sources. And that is it. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
Okay. Hi, my name is Justin Trombetta, and today I'm going to talk about a potential solution to the lack of access to mental health support in high school. Okay, first I'm going to talk about the problem itself. Many students are forced to struggle silently with their mental health in high school. The resources exist, but are often difficult to access and not made very obvious. This is usually due to a lack of mental health education in schools and too small of a number of counselors to support each student. Additionally, there's a stigma around having poor mental health and that it makes students look weak or like they are seeking attention when searching for help. A lack of access to mental health support in high school could result in further worsening health and possibly death for the students affected. Okay, and now I'm going to show some data points that go with the previous slide. Regarding the amount of counselors in schools, the American School Counselor Association, or ASCA, recommends that each school in the US should have a student-to-counselor ratio of about 250 to 1. However, the national average is about 376 students to 1 counselor. This is really unfair to the students that need support because the counselors already spend most of their time working on things to do with the school and not seeing students. And I believe that even with the 250 to 1 ratio, that is still not enough counselors for every student. Regarding the lack of education and stigma, when asked in a study from 2021, 96% of teens who had not sought support for their mental health attribute it to the lack of knowledge and education about mental health and potential support. In the same study, 92% of the teens cited social stigma and embarrassment. That's almost the entire sample of students, which shows just how much trouble these issues cause. Additionally, this graph on the right shows the percentage of cases of each of these mental health conditions that go untreated. About 40% of ADHD cases don't get treated, 60% of depression, and 80% of anxiety cases don't get treated. Okay, now I'm going to talk about my potential solution. For my solution, I propose a nonprofit nationwide student-led mental health organization. Essentially, the organization will have chapters across the nation, which will promote it through schools with the help of a faculty member who can form a club. The goals of these smaller clubs in each school is to allow student leaders to educate other students about mental health awareness and the easiest way to find help without being judged, basically breaking the stigma. Members of the club will have to pay membership dues, which in my program will be used to fund scholarships that will be granted to students looking to become mental health professionals in the future. The club and larger organization can also raise funds by holding public events to spread awareness for mental health. And then, okay, I'm gonna go to the effective side now. Okay, why would this be effective? So I modeled this solution off of other very well-known organizations such as Key Club that function very similarly. And I also know from personal experience in my school how effective these clubs are and how popular they are among the student body. Additionally, the fact that the clubs are led by students will help to lift the stigma from the students who need help better than if they were hearing advice from an adult, because the students who are getting educated will feel that the educators also need help. All Another great thing about this organization is that it has multiple positive effects. It not only helps to reduce the stress of students, but it also uses its revenue to support students who are paying or who have trouble paying for their education. The scholarship program will mostly focus on social psychology students as an effort to increase the amount of school counselors and potentially implement in schools counselors who are focused only on student well-being instead of, I guess, managing classes and things. The organization is also scalable because it is present all around the nation and has a potential to affect the entire nation positively. Finally, my solution is based on equality because it gives every student the same chance to better themselves and heal their mental health. And then my sources. And then, thanks.
Okay, so hi, my name is Nicole, and I'll be talking about prison reformation and the war against disease. Okay, so my main issue is that in US state prisons, there are a lot of diseases that are contracted by the inmates. And if you look to your left on the graph, you can see all the different types of diseases that can be contracted, with the most cases being hepatitis C. And then on the right, you'll see the rate of imprisonment and how some races are unfortunately more disproportionately represented than others. But regardless, disease is still being spread around inmates regardless because it does not discriminate. Next slide, please. So for my solution for this, I wanted to revamp two already existing bills. So first one is the California Senate Bill 498, which states that inmates with less than $25 in their accounts for 7 days or more are eligible for free hygiene products for that week. And then the second one is the California Senate Bill 474, which states that the commissary where inmates would buy their items, they cannot mark the prices up more than 10% of the vendor prices. However, I want to revamp this and say that hygiene products should be free regardless of how much money the inmates have in their accounts, because they should all be entitled to keep themselves clean and up to hygienic standards. And in a interview with two other previously incarcerated people, they stated how they would do labor in terms of cleaning the prisons. However, the cleaning supplies are not good quality, and so the prisons are unfortunately left not as clean as they would want it to be. So I want the facilities to be equipped with good cleaning supplies so they'd be able to live in a clean environment. And not to mention, they also should have designated times for their showers because, as I said in the interview, they said how the only times they have to shower are during either their class times or their free times. But they should be able to have the time to themselves to be able to shower and still be able to attend class and then have their free time. Medical services are also very hard to come by in the prisons, unfortunately. And they have said that they have to send in a notice and it could take up to months to be authorized. So I want there to be medical staff that are ready at a moment's notice for the inmates to be able to go in and get their checkups and make sure that no other diseases are going to be spread around. So not only will having a clean environment help with reducing the spread of disease, but it can also have a positive effect on mental health, in which the inmates will leave the prisons feeling not depressed, and they will not have the trauma of living in an unclean environment. And not to mention, they will feel clean, but they will also feel seen as people. And then here are my references. Thank you, and I am now open to questions.
Hello, everyone. My name is Penny Nguyen, and here's my presentation about closing the skincare gap in California. The reason why I picked this issue for my community-based project is because skin cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer in the United States, and it's not really talked about at all. With 1 in 5 Americans developing skin cancer over their lifetime. And the issue that I'm trying to prevent is rural Californians facing higher melanoma rates than urban residents, with melanoma being the main form of skin cancer. Rural patients often travel around 102 miles on average just for treatment, which is very far. The group that I'm trying to target is Hispanic Latino Californians, with 16.1% of Hispanic patients being diagnosed at a late stage compared to 7.2% of white patients. and only 11.2% of Hispanic adults in the US wear sunscreen regularly when being outside for more than an hour on a sunny day. And here is my upstream solution. My upstream solution is free sun safety kits that distribute sunscreen, wide brim hats, and educational flyers at schools, parks, community centers, and migrant health fairs. The reason why my solution is effective is because it targets the people most at risk, which are rural areas and Hispanic Latino communities. They also distribute directly to schools, health centers, and community centers. My solution is also affordable and realistic, with sun safety kits being low cost and easy to distribute. We can develop this solution further through partnerships with mobile clinics that already exist in California and local hospitals. And last but not least, it prevents skincare tremendously, with sunscreen and hats blocking up to 90% of harmful UV rays, which is the main cause of skin cancer. Here are my cited sources. And thank you guys for listening.
Everybody, nice to meet you all. I'm going to be presenting about Repro Health on Wheels. So basically, reproductive health on wheels. My name is Bree and I go to Pinole Valley High School. I am a rising senior. And let's get the presentation started. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is my issue and data. So as we can see here, homeless youth, especially teens and young adults, nearly 50% report receiving no formal reproductive health education. And this is from the National Network of Youth. We also see that homeless youth experience STI at a rate up to 10 times higher than housed youth. The unfair outcome of this is that there is a lack of reproductive health care among homeless youth, and due to this issue, it leads to a higher rate of unwanted pregnancies, STIs, and unsafe sexual practices. And this impacts homeless youth, especially teens and young adults. And it's very important because this is such a vast difference from the majority of the teen population. And because these youth are homeless, they have no safe space to receive this education or really learn about these types of issues and preventative measures. Next slide, please. Okay, so my upstream solution for this is a mobile outreach program. So it is a traveling program which visits shelters, youth centers, and street outreach sites, and it's to provide interactive workshops on reproductive health and safety. It's to distribute free resources. So it would be like a pack where youth could earn things such as, or get things such as contraceptives, like birth control, condoms, like hygiene kits, such as soap and like wipes, and also information pamphlets. And these information pamphlets would include things like where they can go to like get, clinics, where they could go to get shots at clinics, or where they can go like to reach out to someone regarding safety or any like issues. And then this is also to connect youth with long-term care providers and local clinics. And we also want to partner with local schools, do transitional housing and shelters. And when I talk about partnering with schools, I also talk about partnering with schools' health centers, since majority have health centers. So get that program connected so that the staff can direct homeless youth and teens to this program to get that specified help. Next slide, please. Oh, wait, one slide before. Okay, effectiveness. So this meets youth where they are, and it also increases accessibility, and it builds trust and relationship through consistent presence. So many homeless, especially, usually are skeptical when they've been out in the street due to unsafe, circumstances. So they are quite, they're quite untrusting of these types of services. So through this program, through consistently like showing them that, they're there for them and being able to actually prove that through actions, it builds that trust and relationship. And it also offers non-judgmental youth-friendly education. It's also expandable to serve youth in other underserved cities. It's also scalable and adaptable, and the models can expand to other underserved communities and be tailored to specific youth needs, such as LGBTQ, BIPOC, and like low income. Okay, next slide, please. And these are my sources. So the National Network for Youth, Youth Homelessness and Sexual Health, the CDC, and U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And next slide. Okay, any questions or comments?
All right. Hello, my name is Vincent Tran, and this is Sleep Well and Healthy with Prizes. This topic of sleep resonates deeply with me, so I hope that you all can learn something out of this. Next slide. So the issue I want to tackle on is about sleep deprivation and how like it's very prevalent among high schoolers. So since there are many different factors contributing to sleep deprivation, I want to focus on the social academic aspects of this issue. And so some root causes surrounding social academic factors include extracurricular activities, which include after school clubs, sports, and part-time jobs, increased workloads, especially as you become an upperclassman, the pressure to achieve, either instigated by your peers or college admissions, and nighttime technology use. The main target population I'll be focusing on will be high school adolescents, ranging from age 14 to 19. And because of sleep deprivation, there are negative health and social outcomes such as lower academic performance, increased stress, difficulty concentrating, and weakened health. Research shows that when you've been awake for 18 hours, you reach cognitive impairments as severe as significant intoxication. So this is equivalent to waking up at 7 a.m. to sleeping at 1 a.m. Next slide. And so some data points that supports academic and social factors of sleep deprivation are as follows. One, academic stress tends to have a significant direct effect on adolescents' sleep quality. Moreover, anxiety and school burnout significantly correlate with lower sleep quality. And for my second data point, in American high schools, the academic and social burdens tend to be greater in the more advanced grades, which is reflected by 50% of reported 11th and 12th graders who slept less than 6.5 hours during school nights compared to 30% of ninth graders who had the same duration. And so we can see in the chart next to it that the orange shows the orange bar shows 5.5 to 6.5 hours, and there are considerably more 11th to 12th graders that have the orange bar than the ninth graders. Next slide. And so my solution to resolving these academic and social issues would be the Sleep Health Week, hosted early on in the school year by the schools. This would be hosted early on because one, this is set as a foundation of healthy sleep for a successful school year, and two, there's not as much work done early in the year. There are three parts. The first part is the goodie bags, which include face masks, earplugs, and uh, little mindfulness flyers. All of these items are proven to help sleep. The second part is the promotions of sleep, which include sleep education, mindfulness, reduced homework load, posters and social media, and quiet places to nap. Finally, the third part is the sleep log, which is to be filled for each day of the week. There will be an incentive for those who make the quota of healthy sleep, whether that would be physical prizes or extra credit in the gradebook. The log would be validated by checking screen time, which cannot be overridden, so we can check who has been sleeping and who has been using their phones in the nighttime. Next slide. This is effective because students will be able to gain free access. This will also reduce stress caused by schools, as there will be not as much work to do at home, even if a student participates in an extracurricular. So every student has a chance to sleep well without worrying about homework. This is also effective because it targets the age group most vulnerable to sleep deprivation. There is also a motivation to sleep more with the incentives. And finally, with adequate sleep, students can perform better in schools where they're not as cognitively impaired. Next slide. Some of my cited sources include Stanford Medical, some research articles off of uh, NIH, and the National Sleep Foundation. And next slide. And thank you for listening to my project. Any questions?
Okay. All right. Hello, my name is Alex Mariscal Lona, and this is my community-based project on children's lack of mental health education. Next slide, please. All right. So, issue. Despite the growing importance of mental health, many young people lack access to accurate information, resources, and support. leading to increased rates of anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. Currently, there is a lack of engaging and relatable educational tools and resources that cater to the unique needs and preferences of the youth, resulting into a significant gap in mental health awareness. Next, please. Next slide, please. So, the data that I was able to get were two stats and one important quote. So, the first data that I was able to get was from Johns Hopkins University Public Health, and what it's basically talking about is how, despite how common mental illnesses are, many children do not receive the help they need due to stigma, lack of access, or lack of awareness. My next data from Nation is talks about how many young people still struggle to talk about mental health, and this gap compared to older generations shows that there is work to be done to make mental health more normal to discuss, especially for the youth. And the other important quote from the CDC talks about childhood and adolescence are critical stages of life and mental health. This is a time of rapid growth and brain development. So what this data is talking about, it basically highlights the need for more mental health education, support systems, and open conversations targeted to the youth to reduce stigma and increase comfort with seeking help. So my next data is a bar graph from the CDC, which is about the mental and behavioral health conditions by age. So as we could see, mental health issues like anxiety and depression rise sharply with age, especially in adolescents ages 12 to 17. And behavioral disorders peak in children aged 6 to 11, and younger children ages 3 to 5 show lower percentages, not necessarily because they aren't struggling, but possibly because issues are under-identified or misunderstood at early ages. So what this is telling us is that the rising rates of anxiety and depression in older children reflect a lack of early mental health education. So if we were to teach emotional intelligence and coping skills starting at an early age in childhood, we could reduce the impact of these conditions and support healthier development. Next slide, please. So my upstream solution would be to implement mental health education suitable for children into school curriculums, specifically in preschoolers or elementary school children. So this could be like lessons on emotions, coping skills, and when to seek help, supported by staff and community programs to reduce stigma and promote well-being. So why is my solution effective or innovative? First of all, it has an age-focused approach. So by targeting children, we can address mental health at a crucial developmental stage, helping them build a strong foundation for emotional intelligence. Next is emphasis on emotional validation. So we're prioritizing teaching children that their emotions matter, promoting self-acceptance and compassion. And third, early intervention and prevention. By introducing mental health education early, children can develop healthy coping mechanisms and reduce the stigma associated with mental health discussions. So this solution approach can empower children to develop emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and positive relationship with their mental health, setting them up for a lifetime of well-being and perseverance. Next slide, please. And these are my sources from the CDC, NASN, and Johns Hopkins University. And next slide, please. And thank you so much. Any questions?
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Ariana Ceballos Lopez, and today I will be presenting Waste No More, a food waste preservation initiative. So an overview is this project aims to reduce food waste within local communities by raising awareness, creating sustainable food systems, and redistributing surplus food. So to begin, what is food insecurity? Food insecurity means having limited or uncertain access to affordable, nutritious food. The graphs illustrate the food security status of U.S. households in 2023, categorized by the presence of children. So the yellow graph shows higher food insecurity in households with children, standing at 17.9%, compared to households without children, standing at 13.5%. Next slide, please. But who does it necessarily impact? So low-income communities or people of color are impacted by food insecurity. And a survey done in 2021 states Hispanics are impacted by 18%, Blacks are impacted by 13%, and whites and non-Hispanics are impacted by 6% in Contra Costa. So this graph presents different percentages of U.S. households experiencing different indicators of food insecurity. The data is also categorized from security status, ranging from food secure, low food security, and very low food security. Some of the indicators would include people worried food would run out, food bought but did not last, and not being able to afford balanced meals, which are just some to name. Next slide, please. I've also conducted some interviews with former food bank workers and food market volunteers. A food bank worker had stated that 60 million is funded for all food banks in California, but was cut down to 8 million and advocated for and brought back up to 60 million. They've also mentioned they served about 210 to 220 families at most weekly. And then my next interview was with a food market volunteer, which stated on average, they have about 150 families coming to their food market, typically feeding about 600 plus individuals. They've also mentioned how most of the families that go to the food markets consist of Hispanic and Latinos. And my last interview was with a former food market shopper, which stated that they shop for their weekly groceries for free and helps them financially, as well as get provided healthy food options. So therefore, I present my my solutions, which would be nonprofit organizations that can collaborate with large grocery chains to distribute surplus food items, products near expiration dates, and imperfect foods. And the goal would be to create food distribution in low-income communities or areas facing food insecurity. We can also open healthy food restaurants near fast food locations or anywhere open to the public eye. Now, the effectiveness of these solutions is highly expected since food insecurity is largely driven by inflation and the lack of income, as well as if we place healthy food options to low-income communities that are affordable, then the interest in fruits and vegetables would be increased over processed foods, as well as there already being organizations dedicated to the effort of reducing food waste, like Food Rescue and Waste. It is a food bank of Contra Costa, and they rescued about 6.5 to 7.5 pounds of food annually, as well as CalFresh Impact. In 2024, they had a project, and about 3.2 million meals were provided in Contra Costa and Solano. And the last organization that I will be mentioning is White Pony, which they are a nonprofit organization located in Concord, and they typically rescue and deliver over 26 million pounds of food annually. These are my references. And thank you. Any questions or concerns?
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Juan Ambriz. I am an intern at HCP. I'm an up and coming senior at Richmond High School. my presentation on improving neighborhood health through green spaces in Richmond, California. Next slide, please. So my main issue is on how South, Central, and North Richmond, near Richmond Parkway, they lack safe, healthy, and green spaces. This matters because low-income families and children need access to green spaces to stay healthy and play safely. Pollution and heat harms community health, especially for kids and low-income groups. And there is a clear need to plant more trees and create cleaner and cooler environments. And in conclusion, we just need more trees. Next slide, please. So for my data, I found out that North, South, North, and Central have the highest hospitalization rate for health problems such as asthma in Contra Costa County. And the tree canopy coverage is lowest in these neighborhoods with only 10 to 12% compared to the recommended 20 to 30. And for my bar graph, I made it on my own. Basically, what I did was that I searched up asthma incident rates in Richmond and neighboring cities like Richmond, Marin County, Walnut Creek, Oakland, and Fremont. And I also took the percentage of that city's land being parks in nature. And what I found out was that Richmond has the highest asthma rate at 18.4%. And they have the lowest land being parks in nature at 1.5%, whereas neighboring cities near the Chevron refineries like Marin County, their percentage of land being parks in nature is at 46%. However, what shocked me was that their asthma rate is at the lowest at 7%. So in conclusion, in conclusion, I found out there was a correlation between the lower the percentage of a city's land being parks in nature, the higher the asthma rate. Next slide, please. So my upstream solution will be to advocate for the implementation of two actions in the citywide greening policy that makes the city spend money more equitably in neighborhoods like South, Central, and North Richmond so that they can get the green spaces they need and deserve. So in conclusion, the city of Richmond already has a greening plan that was completed in 2017, and now we need action. The two solutions that I recommend to move this plan over include creating a youth program with a budget of $500,000. And with that youth program, looking at the tree opportunity map, Ashley, would you please click on the link? And planting trees in the green areas that need trees. So right here, is a map of Richmond, California, and the red indicates areas that already have trees or city-owned trees, and the green symbolizes areas that need trees or areas that are free that need trees. Yeah. Back to the slide, please. And right there on the bottom right, there is a map of my before the implementation of my policy. And there's an after the implementation of my policy. As you can see, there's more green areas, there's more trees, and in generally greener Richmond, California. Next slide, please. Why would my solution work? Well, the city has already invested in consultants and a plan. These solutions are in support of a larger vision. It encourages youth leadership through cleanup and planting projects. It's based on realistic work that the city has done, and my policies build on this. It could create jobs. It could create learning opportunities, and in conclusion, it already builds on pre-existing citywide greening plans. Next slide, please. These are my cited sources from Urban Greening Master Plan. That's what the plan of 2017 was called. Nature and the American Forest Tree Equity Score, and the Tree Opportunity Map. Next slide, please. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Do any of you guys have any questions?